Night shift gas station clerks of Reddit, what's the weirdest thing you've ever encountered? I was working at a mobile late one night in my hometown, which is a summer vacation hotspot, when a middle-aged man who looked like he just walked off a golf course. He was obviously a little drunk, but drunk middle-aged men who golf was the norm for tourists, so I took no heed. He came up to the counter and I heard him ask me if there were any gay bars in town. I told him no, that the closest one I was aware of was in Provincetown, a gay hotspot which was an optimistic hour drive away with traffic. He then asked me if I was interested in fooling around with him. I replied no, and in an attempt to soften the rejection I joked I don't think my girlfriend would be too happy about that, which seemed to excite the guy as he redoubled his efforts. His big pitch was that he had an especially nice van that we could pull into the garage beta use. Granted, it looked like a nice van, but didn't sway my stance. After another 5 minutes he seemed to resign to his fate and he left the store. I thought we were done and went back to reading. Half an hour later I hear a car start up and leave the lot. I didn't realize he had just stayed in his van and was waiting for me. I figured, creepy, but whatever, he's gone, so I put it out of my mind. A couple hours after that I was closing up shop, and I had to go out on the ladder to change the prices on the sign for the next day. The town is deserted at this point and all the lights at the station were off save a couple in the garage. While I'm up on the ladder the same van screeches back into the lot. I'm up on a ladder in the dark alone, not thrilled about this development. He hopped out and hollered, "I forgot to pay you." I figured that I had given him smokes or something and just forgot to charge him as I was rejecting his advances, so I asked him for what. He replied, "I forgot to try and pay you for a good time." I paused. He yelled $250. It occurred to me that I could probably just take the dude's money and run, but I correctly assessed that would be really stupid, so I yelled, "Fuck man, no means no," still on the ladder. He yelled, "Jesus Christ, fine," and peeled out. Never saw him again, thankfully. He replied, "I forgot to try and pay you for a good time." This guy sounds like the worst undercover cop ever. Reminds me of that South Park. Alright, free ease. LOL, thanks for reminding me. Not a gas station, but a train station cafe. There were overnight works going on, so we stayed open until 1 or 2 a.m. for the builders. One night this older gentleman comes in, well dressed. Asks for a coffee but can't pay when I make it. I give it to him anyway since I'll just throw it otherwise, and he asks me for some cake. I refuse, and he goes, "I sing for my supper." And then starts to belt out Frank Sinatra right there in the shop. And he just won't stop. He's there for like half an hour. I tried to get security to look after him because he clearly wasn't all there. Found him later, singing for the builders who were giving him sandwiches. Eventually called the local police who got him supervised until he could catch a train home in the morning. But, was he like any good? 'Cause I would have given him the cake if he sounded good and knew enough lyrics to do this for 30 minutes. I don't really remember too well. He was incredibly confident, absolutely belted it out, full-chested. It was so unexpected we were pretty uncomfortable, and we just had to keep serving customers while he was doing it. I don't remember if he did a medley or just did New York, New York on a loop. I worked in a rural gas station/garage when I was in high school. One evening I was working and there were some pretty bad storms brewing. It didn't take long for there to be a fairly large group of people stopped at the station to find some shelter. I didn't think much of it, wasn't the first time it had happened, but then they started blowing the tornado sirens. All of a sudden there's a bunch of adult and families looking at little 16-year-old me looking for answers. There's no basement, so I did the first thing I could think of and shoved them all in the walk-in cooler. Shut us all in and rode out the storm. When it passed I went out and there was a big plate glass window busted and some shit blown around the store. All the people came out of the cooler and were pretty much like, "See you later," and left. I was pretty much left there by myself like, what the fuck just happened? There's no basement, so I did the first thing I could think of and shoved them all in the walk-in cooler. Good job keeping your cool. BADUMTSSSSS. Years ago I worked overnights at a gas station, in a pretty bad neighborhood in Florida. My first night working there, an older guy came in, walked up to the counter and reached across and punched me in the jaw pretty hard. The guy I was working with chased him out the door while I called the cops to send someone over. My co-worker came back in pretty quick, looking frightened, and said to send an ambulance because the crazy guy just died outside. EMT and police came. Guy was alive but had a pretty bad heart attack. Every other shift was pretty timid compared to that. Florida man punched me and he didn't live to tell about it. If you think the punch was bad, you should have seen what happened to the other guy. I had a friend who worked at a gas station. He said someone came in one night and produced a gun and told my friend to empty the register. Being completely dumbfounded by the situation, my friend told him that he had to buy something first. This is because to open the register, an item from the gas station needed to be scanned at the register. According to my friend, they stared at each other completely silent and bewildered for a few seconds. After that, my friend had regained enough of his faculties to explain this to the robber. Then the robber scanned a Twix, took all the money in the register and left. Twix bar for the win. Yay, I've always been curious if the robber was like him, just gonna grab something, or if he thought, this Twix would be the cherry on top of this armed robbery and I should treat myself. Have a Snickers, Mark. You turn into an armed robber when you're hungry.